Welcome back, you guys. I'm Nini FC. This is Behind CV, and in today's News Daily video, I'll be focusing on 3 stories today. I'll be speaking about Jesus Corona, a player that's been seen as a Jadon Sancho alternative. I'll be speaking about Jeremie Boga and what the future lies in hold for the player, and I'll be speaking about Ousmane Dembele and whether he's the right investment we should make if we can't get a Jadon Sancho, or maybe in place of signing Sancho in the first place. A ton to talk about, a ton to break down, but before I get into anything, today's video is brought to you by the OneFootball app. Use the OneFootball app and its very good stats feature to get an idea of how some of the players that are linked with us are performing for their respective clubs in their respective leagues. It's not the most in detail stats you're going to get, but it's a very convenient and quick way to get an understanding on how these players are performing, looking at their attacking stats, their defensive stats, etc, etc. Try it out for yourselves, you guys. You'll find a link below in the description below. Now, to start today's video, I want to speak about Ousmane Dembele. Reports have come out suggesting that Barcelona will make the player available for possible loans for this next summer window. You know, it does make quite a lot of sense. Barcelona recently signed Trincao for 20 million euros from Portugal, and due to the emergence of Ansu Fati as well, well, it seems like Barcelona do have young, talented attacking players to cover for any Dembele potential departure. So with the recent developments suggesting that he would be made available for a loan, well, it does make a lot of sense for both parties. From Barcelona's perspective, they're looking at this potential loan move as a way to recuperate some money back due to that massive initial outlay they originally spent to bring Dembele to Barcelona. You know, they spent 96 million, and on top of that, there are additional clauses that could potentially raise that deal to up to 140 million euros. So it's a crazy amount of money. And in that sense, Barcelona have been inspired by Philippe Coutinho. With his loan move to Bayern Munich, they were hoping that he'd find his form again, he'd rebuild his reputation and attract a lot of big clubs and a lot of big offers. However, Bayern Munich turned down the opportunity to make the move permanent, and Barcelona are struggling to find clubs to spend the money they want to sign Coutinho. Maybe in Dembele's regards, things would be a bit different. With the Euros being pushed to next year for the 2021 season, it does seem like a lot of players are going to be focusing on trying to win the opportunity to represent their nations in the next European competitions. So if you're Dembele, if you know that you have ridiculous competition at Barcelona. Now, even though Dembele could be available, this doesn't necessarily mean that this is a gamble-proof deal. His wages are very high, he's earning up to 200,000k per week at Barcelona, but I guess this is the part where Marina would work her magic and negotiate a percentage of wages that we'd have to fulfill to bring the player to Stamford Bridge. Let's say we could spend up to 50% on Dembele's wages. That could work in our favour, and maybe this could be actually a tangible real thing due to the injury history of Ousmane Dembele. Now, I think this segues into my thoughts and opinions, and again, you guys, my thoughts and opinions aren't supposed to impose on any of yours, but I really do feel like people are forgetting just how severe Dembele's injuries have been. Now, he's picked up hamstring injury after hamstring injury, picking up very serious, severe ones on both legs, his left leg and his right leg. Now, he recently broke down again sometime early February, and he's out for 6 months. So the reality is, even if you did sign him on loan, you know, by the time the player obviously recuperates, which is looking like it's going to be around the 4th of August, you know, he's going to need time to get fully match fit. He's going to need time to acclimatize to his environment. He is going to need time to get used to Lampard's tactical demands. So, and depending on if everything goes through like smooth sailing, you're looking at Dembele getting his first opportunities to play at some time around October. So in that sense, when you're spending so much money on the loan fee, the wages as well, and you're hoping that he's going to come back fully fit, I personally feel that Dembele does become a potentially expensive gamble. Also consider the demands of the Premier League, you know, with our tactics as well, where you need to constantly press on the front foot, you need to run intensively quite a lot as well. You're constantly competing in games. You know, sometimes with Barcelona, when you're watching their games, their opposition aren't necessarily putting them under physical duress, but in the Premier League, it becomes a completely different story. and due to his injury history, it could potentially jeopardize his weak hamstrings and possibly reignite future injuries. I know that I'm painting a very negative hypothetical, but this is based on an injury history over 3 years, and over 3 years we've seen consistent breakdowns with the player. I think for now, I would target Dembele as a backup last resort option in case we can't sign your Havertz's or your Sanchos. We have profited from signing players on loan, most notably with Kovacic, so in that sense Dembele could transform himself with his club. However, I just don't think it's feasible to make, aggressive moves from right now until you have explored every single possible attacking option in the market. But obviously you guys in the comment section below, give me your thoughts and opinions. Do you think that Dembele is worth that gamble, worth that risk? If so, state your reasons why. And now we move on to the second story today. It's in regards to Jesus Corona, and reports are suggesting that Lampard is looking to target this player if a move for Jadon Sancho completely collapses. Now, the funny thing with this story was that there wasn't too much insight and context to really just, break down the story in the news. The reality at Porto is that they are facing, very heavy financial difficulties, and they are now forced to sell players. Now, the thing is at Porto, they can't really exercise the right to sell their players for their full maximum release clauses, and this explains why players like Alex Telles, for example, will be allowed to leave Porto for less than their release clauses. Now, I know what you're all thinking, why would Corona be the best alternative to Jadon Sancho? And I was thinking about this a lot. At Porto, especially this season, he has made a Juan Cuadrado transformation playing as a right back. Now, of course, over previous seasons at Porto, he has played in this position when he has to, but this season in particular, he has really made his name. And stats-wise, he's been absolutely ridiculous. In about 41 games, he scored 2 goals, but he's racked up 17 assists in all competitions. And it's that positional versatility the player possesses that I feel Lampard would be attracted to. And here's how I'm seeing the situation. There's a massive, real, tangible possibility that Sancho may decide to stay at Dortmund for another season before moving on. And if this was the case, we would still need to sign a backup attacking player, as both Pedro and Willian will be leaving once the season ends. Now, in that sense, Corona could be a jack of all trades. He could provide competition in the fullback areas, he can be used in midfield as a wingback, and further up in the final third as well. And if he was signed along those means, he does become a bit of a future-proof player, because there is a real possibility that next season in particular, Azpilicueta may not play as many games. You're assuming that Reece James is going to take on the mantle in the right back position, and we're in the market to sign a marquee left back. So is this already telling us that Azpilicueta will be playing a more backup role? I really think so. And in that sense, Corona could be that future-proof backup alternative to Aspi once he finally leaves. So in that sense, for the 21-22 season, where let's say hypothetically Sancho has declared that he will definitely leave Dortmund, Dortmund are willing to negotiate with anyone and everyone as long as they cough up the money, well, Jesus Corona's signing wouldn't really impact things because he would have a different role to fulfill in the team once that future possibly happens. Now, with this story as well, I personally still believe that his agent is meddling and just, peddling this story around, because we know that Porto need to sell players. Jesus has a ton of interest from across Europe as well, and I guess when players are linked with big clubs, maybe that makes them a more attractive proposition in the market. I mean, who knows? Now, as I'm saying, I could see this deal working if he was signed as a last resort player. I guess his signing would imply that Pulisic, Hudson-Odoi, Ziyech and Mount would be used for those attacking positions until maybe Sancho or a big marquee attacking player was available, and that way be future-proof our options in the fullback area. But anyway, you guys, we are now going to move on to the final story today, and it's a sad one. It's in regards to Jeremy Boga, and yes, it's looking like we will not be exercising our rights to bring the player back to the club. Now, this story was first broken by Fabrizio Romano and later reported by The Telegraph, and yeah, they're stating that we won't be seeing Jeremy Boga next season at Stamford Bridge. It looks like we are negotiating a sell-on clause with Sassuolo, meaning that they can sell the player, and whatever happens then, we'd earn a percentage of that transfer profit. When I first heard the story, I was kind of thinking, this is a bit crazy, no? I mean, this guy literally costs less than 50 million. He's shown stats-wise and he's passed the eye test too, showing that he does have really special potential and ability, being one of the best attacking wingers in Serie A. And you're just thinking, if we need an extra position filled, why aren't we bringing him back? There could be so many reasons for this. We have to stop assuming that the club are constantly making the stupidest of decisions. A real reality is that we still have hopes to bring in a marquee attacking player. This isn't new news. This is an ambition that we've known about for a very long time. That ambition hasn't changed whatsoever. And for me, this implies that maybe we still have hopes to sign a Sancho, or even possibly looking at Kai Havertz. Once you sign players like that, you're not signing them to compete for their first team spot. You kind of have a spot already ready for them in the team already. And if you're Jeremie Boga, I'm assuming that the club can't offer you that guaranteed game time that you'd possibly want. Now, that's not me implying that he couldn't win a spot in the team. I think that could happen. I just don't know the financial merits behind that gamble. We still don't know how Pulisic, Hudson-Odoi and Mason Mount are going to progress playing for us. And I guess signing another player along those similar lines wouldn't be the best for anyone. I also thought about the idea of just possibly signing him back and then just selling him to make that profit. However, I'm to believe that this would be a bad move from the club, because I don't think the club are ruling out ever signing Jeremie Boga. And if you were to buy him back just to sell him straight again, then you're killing every single tie at one day ever having Boga playing for this club. He's just 23 years old. He's only recently got a taste of consistent first team football at a high level of football. If he was to sign for us and we can't guarantee him that consistent game time, then we just kill the player's momentum. I think right now for Boga, making that step up to a club like a Napoli, an Atalanta or a Dortmund, etc, would be the best thing to do. That way you're testing yourself at a higher caliber of club, and you have to tell yourself, listen, if I can consistently perform in the next 2 years, by the time he's 25 years old, who knows what the position of players at this club is going to be like? What if we know that certain attacking players don't have the required ability to make that step up and become key big players for us? This could be what Boga needs, and maybe we could replace one of them to sign him back. I think letting Boga leave in this way is respecting the player, and it's also keeping the doors open for any future possible return. Remember, we still have hopes to sign a Sancho and a big name marquee signing. So in that sense too, it just wouldn't be good to keep Boga on strings. And again, when you're just really just making it so obvious that you're being seen as a backup player, that's not attracting anyone. And remember what I told you guys. Remember the video I released in regards to Lampard and Mertens, where I revealed the reasons why we didn't sign Mertens. It was due to Mertens not having a set position in the team and being told that he would be seen as a utility player. Most players don't want to hear that. Most players don't like that. So I understand the business sense behind why we're doing this, and I kind of think it's okay, you guys. Boga's one of my most favorite players. I've been watching this guy since he was, tearing it up during the academy days. I've always believed in his ability. I'm seeing it now, and I really feel like he is going to be one of the best attacking players in Europe. But anyway, you guys, on that note, I'm going to wrap things up and keep things moving. Remember to like, comment and subscribe. I'm Nini FC. This is Blue Lions TV. I'll see you guys later with some more videos.